Hello and welcome back to Roker Rapport Xtra. The last time we did this was with the Accrington Stanley chairman, which was a great chat, but in essence, we got absolutely pissed on a day later and the game got abandoned. But we have probably our biggest game of the season coming up this Saturday, just in time for Christmas. We have the longest trek, or one of the longest treks. We're playing Portsmouth, a team who've got a relatively similar recent history to us and are on a relatively similar path as us at the moment and have been top of the league for what seems like forever. So to speak about Portsmouth, to see what we've got to worry about, I've got Hugh from Pompey now. How are you doing, Hugh? Are you well?
Yeah, I'm very well. Thanks for having me.
No, not a problem at all, my friend. We had a few mic issues before, didn't we? Because my laptop's conked out recently. So all podcasts are via telephone. DIY or die, right?
Yeah, that's it. You've got to make do with what we've got, eh?
Yeah. So Portsmouth, I think it's been a while since we've played each other, but it is a team that I'm used to coming up against, which I haven't said too many times this season, no disrespect to the likes of Bristol Rovers and whatnot. But it's been a long journey for both of us, but an even longer one for you. What's happened since we last met?
I mean, it's been a big changes here at Portsmouth. What's happened is obviously everyone knows our story. There's demise to the club. We shot down the league's administration, all kinds of problems. But since then, a couple of years ago, the club have come and the fans bought the club out for about $2.5 million, which was raised by the fans themselves. So we cleared the debt there. We invested in the youth academy. So we came over and we basically put 250,000 quid, which is crowdfunded, to buy a whole new academy, new pitches. Move everyone back onto the island of Portsmouth, because before our training ground was basically outside Southampton and Eastleigh, which obviously isn't great for Portsmouth fans, should we say. So everything's been brought back in-house. The women's team's now been brought back in-house again. And what the club's done is then we've pushed on. We've sold the club from fan ownership into the hands of Michael Eisner, who's our new chairman through. And basically he's kicked the club on, really. With all the replacement works, the stadium has been done. The foundations of the club are now sorted. We're debt free, and we're looking forward. So it's exciting times in Portsmouth. I think all the fans are relieved, excited to be getting on board with the team who really now are looking to compete in the Championship.
Yeah, and I think, most definitely, like I was saying before, I think it's been a really similar path, but it feels like Portsmouth have been on it for like considerably longer than we have. It seems like we've dropped again, then we got bought out. But I dread to think what would have happened if Sunderland weren't bought out this summer, because I think Stuart Donald and Jack Ross and Charlie Methven as well have totally changed our fortunes. But if this was Ellis Short and it was, again, we had literally no money and we were in League One, I do kind of worry how that would go. And that happened to Portsmouth, didn't it? You basically had to deal with League One with nothing like looking after you really at all. And how was that? And you're one of the only teams that have had it worse than us in the past few years. So how good does it feel to be where you're at now?
I mean, it feels great to be where we are now. I mean, it was horrible. I think we went 9 games without scoring a goal at one point, and it was one of those times. It was really painful to be a fan, but the fans really stuck by the team. You're another team with great support away and at home, and I think that the loyalty that the fans have shown has really paid off. Really, being down in League Two is difficult. It's a hard league to get out of. It's physical. I mean, if you think the refereeing's bad in League One, then let's hope you don't go down to League Two ever, because it's even worse down there. I remember we played Newport, and they were literally kicking our players over and pushing their faces into the pitch, face into the ground, and punching the players off the ball, and it was scrappy. But we had managed to get up under Paul Cook, and that was a great feeling to win the league, even on the last day. And now we pushed on. We've got Kenny Jackett, who I think he's got the pedigree as a manager to get us out this division. He had a steady season last season, just missed the playoffs. But now we're just looking to. I think playoffs was the minimum expectation this season, and we're doing better than that even now.
Yeah, and I think you're the team that we've been looking at for a long, long time. Truth be told, if we finish runners up and we both go up, I'm not going to be qualming too much, but you want to aim for the top, don't you? And you mentioned Kenny Jackett before. Now he's got he's got history with Wolves. Another team who, very similar to ourselves, had a very similar path and are doing absolutely fab in the Premiership at the minute. But what's Kenny Jackett brought that's impressed you the most this season? What is it that's turned you from playoff contenders to league leaders since September, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, well, this season he's been able to go out and have a whole summer of recruitment. So he came in at the end of the season before, so he didn't have that whole summer to put his mark on the team. So he's had that whole transfer window. You know, the board's backed him. We haven't spent silly amounts of money either. We've got a good scouting network. We've managed to pick up players like Ronan Curtis for under £100,000. And he's looking like an absolute steal, which I'm sure we'll talk about players in a bit and how what kind of impact they've got. But going back to Kenny Jackett, his man management's fantastic, and he's so professional and organised. And I think he's got a system that the players have really bought into. And not only that, but he's got 2 players for each position. So if we've actually been very lucky with injuries, but if someone does go down, we've got someone to slot right in. If you lose Jamal Lowe on the right, we've got players like Andre Green on loan from Aston Villa. He's managed to bring in Ben Thompson from Millwall, and he's looking absolutely fantastic in the middle. And using those links he's had before, I think, and just knowing what it takes to get out this division.
He's got quite a youthful side again, hasn't he? And I don't mean like a load of teenagers. It seems like similar to what Jack Ross has done with us. He's brought in a lot of players around the 23, 24 age with something to prove. And is it a much changed side from last season? Has he really stamped his mark with him? You mentioned he came in the back end of last season, moving forward, obviously coming into this season. Has he changed very much, or has he just tweaked it?
We're playing the same system we were playing under Paul Cook, really. We're playing the same formation. So you can look at that and say, are we different? Not really, but the way we're playing is different. And the team personnel is slightly different. Okay, so he's brought a new goalkeeper in with Craig McGilvery, picked up from a free transfer from Shrewsbury. He looks absolutely solid. He's got 10 clean sheets this season. He looks like a revelation in goal. The defence, he's brought in Lee Brown, some experience there from Bristol Rovers. He's been there, done it. And he all the lads really look up to him and like him, and he's still under 30 and he's still looked at as one of the older guys in the team who the younger players look up to. We've got Matt Clark, who's played over 100 games now for the club, and he's been down with us in League Two and up again. Jack Watmore at centre-back, he's a youth academy prospect. He's been around the team. But then you look at midfield and he's gone out and bought players. He's got Tom Naylor in from Burton Albion, who was in the Championship last season in the key positions, and him and Ben Thompson, as I said, on loan from Millwall, they look like an absolute dynamic duo. And then we already had players like Jamal Lowe, who we scouted out of non-league, picked up. Ronan Curtis has come from Ireland, he's brought in. But then you still got the staple players there, like Gareth Evans, who's been at the club for years as well. The likes of Brett Pittman around the squad, and Ollie Hawkins up front. He's another player we picked out of non-league. So he has brought in his own players, but at the same time, you've still got those core guys along that have got us up out of League Two. It's
funny you mentioned Tom Naylor because I can't really say how I know this, but I know that he was quite close to joining Sunderland. And that was before our takeover. When Coleman was here, I believe that a deal was more or less in place. I don't know how far true that is. But I think when the new chairman came in, I think the wages were more than we were prepared to pay. But he has done really well for Portsmouth, and he definitely has championship quality, doesn't he? How has he done?
He's one of those players that does all the little things right.
Yeah.
He plays in holding midfield. So we play 4-2-3-1. He's a player that he gets up and down the pitch a lot. His positioning is very good. He's got that experienced head on him, and he picks a pass well. But he's more than just a combative midfielder, and he's the kind of player that allows us to get our creative midfielders on the ball properly and play the ball forward. We're a difficult team to break down, and he's one of the main reasons I think that we're so good defensively. And yeah, he's got that pedigree to play up the league, but he's a winner. And I know Burton Albion fans. I spoke to one of the guys from the Burton Mail when we signed him.
Yeah,
and they were gutted to lose him. He's the heart of the team. So he's one of the guys that all the young guys in the team look up to again. And yeah, he's been a fantastic signing.
It's funny when you went through the team. I was speaking to, I can't quite remember which team it was and which Xtra podcast I was doing, in all honesty, but we were talking about Portsmouth and us being the two favourites for the league this season. And he mentioned a few things, and he said, when you look on paper, Sunderland have got the most notable, I think it was a Walsall podcast actually, come to think of it. He said, if you look at your team, you've got the likes of McGeady, you've got Gooch, you've got Honeyman, you've got players that you instantly recognise. He says, whereas Portsmouth, to be fair, have more of a unit and more of a team. Would you say that's a fair assessment?
In some ways, I'd say that we play as very much as a unit into the system. I would say that you guys have got some cracking players who obviously have a lot of talent. But if you look at the way that Pompey play at the moment, I think that Ronan Curtis is he's a future star in the making there. He just got his call up for Ireland in November, playing against Denmark after coming over from Derry in the Northern Irish League. And you think him and Jamal Lowe definitely can make the step up. I think Matt Clark at centre-back, he's probably the best defender I could say in the Championship. In League One. Very good. He's got the ability to play up. He can dribble the ball out of the back. He does everything right. And he's still young as well. So I think Pompey got some star power as well. But I do think that our success is definitely through the system that Kenny Jackett plays, which is a bit more conservative, I'd say, in some ways than maybe how you guys play. If we're winning 2-0, he's not going to try and chase the 4 now. It's about closing that down, making sure we don't give the opportunities away. And then if we can hit on the break again, that's what we're doing.
So how do you expect he's going to approach the Sunderland game? Because I assume in the same way that it's the biggest game for us this season, it's definitely the biggest game for you as well. It's massive, it's a massive, massive game. And I think when I was looking at the fixtures for the past few weeks, when we've all been looking at it, Portsmouth away is really going to be the test, because we've only lost once, you've only lost twice. Against yourselves was a very good Barnsley team at home. Which way did he approach that Barnsley game, and why? How do you think that'll have any effect on how he approaches the Sunderland game?
Well, I mean, the last game we played Barnsley away, it was a 1-1 draw.
Oh, was it away?
Yeah, it was a 1-1 draw. I think you're thinking of the Charlton game.
I am thinking of Charlton.
Yeah, that game's a bit of an anomaly, to be honest. The ref had an absolute shocker. The ball was actually off the field for their second goal. For about 5 seconds as well, and Ronan Curtis should play to the whistle, as we all know, but he didn't because the ball was off. And we got Ben Thompson got sent off at the end, and we should have had a couple of penalties. One of their players handballed it off the line. It was one of those things. If you look at the XG stats of that game, actually, we had a 2.3 expected goals to Charlton's 1.4. So it was one of those games in which we should have come away with the win, really, rather than losing it. So I don't think Kenny Jackett would change it up. He's a conservative manager who believes in the system he's playing, and we haven't had many injuries all season, and he's just been rolling out the same team. I expect him to approach it like he approaches any game, but it's the biggest game of the season so far for us, no doubt, and all Pompey fans have been clamouring trying to get a ticket, to be honest.
So that Charlton game it's not, because when I was looking at the past 2 games, I'm looking at Charlton beat you, I'm looking at Barnsley drew with you, and obviously we've just beaten Barnsley, which was a tougher game than it was on paper. We went 3-0 up in 30 minutes, but then, Jesus, we did a typical Sunderland and conceded 2 and eventually got the 4th at the end. But I suppose when I was reading it on paper, I've seen you winning up just about every week, and when I realised the last game was a draw and the one before that was a defeat, I thought maybe there'd been a slight dip in form, but that Charlton game more of an anomaly than more of just one of those days. Yeah,
it's a complete anomaly. Like, as I said, but we've had a few players who was he got booked for? Jamal Lowe. For diving, I think, in that game, which wasn't a dive. He got rugby tackled to the floor in the box, and it was just one of those games. When I think the referee had to be escorted out by police security. It was one of those games, really, and I think the stats show that, really. But Barnsley away, they dominated that game. They should have come away with a win. They had a 2.2 XG compared to our 0.6, and they create a lot more chances. But we're fantastic away from home, and we know how to get a point when needs be. But I mean, Barnsley are undefeated at home all season, aren't they? Yeah. So it's a very tough place to go. So I think getting a point there isn't a bad result, really. That's the kind of point you need coming into the season.
Not at all, and I think I've got to be honest again, going back to our game against Barnsley, it was 4-2 on paper, we were 3-0 up in half an hour, but I think they were actually the best team we faced this season, if I'm totally honest with you. I think the big lad up front, Kiefer Moore, I think at this level, I think he's terrific.
He got 2 against you, didn't he?
He did, yeah, he did. And he absolutely tortured our centre-halves, because our 2 centre-backs, if you play as Flanagan and Baldwin, as good as they are bringing the ball up from the back and as composed as they can be, they're very easily muscled out of games sometimes. And I have worries about them. I don't know about anyone else, but and Moore really punished them for that. You talked about a defender yourselves, and we've spoke quite a few times in our WhatsApp group about how we need another centre-half, and we always speak about Clark at Portsmouth, or we've mentioned him, shall I say, and how unlikely we are to get him. But you mentioned you thought he was the best defender in the league. I don't think it's a bad assessment at all. But going towards your forward players, obviously based on what I've just said about our centre-halves, are you more of a team that will sort of rough our centre-halves up, or are you more likely to try and play amongst them?
I mean, we've got, how he plays, you've got the 3 attacking midfielders with Jamal Lowe on the right, Gareth Evans in the centre, and then you've got Ronan Curtis on the left. All of those guys are capable of scoring goals, and they have done this season all across that side. So I think you've got, I think Jamal leads with 8 goals. I think Ronan's got 7. And Gareth's got 7 as well, so it's quite evenly split across those 3 guys. Now,
pretty good tally so far.
Yeah, all of those run at you with pace. All of those will try and beat your defenders. They want to get on the ball. They're not afraid to shoot or set each other up and play little crossfield balls to each other. I think that up front though, you've got Ollie Hawkins, and he's a physical sort of attacker who can head the ball well. He holds the ball up well, and he tries to bring those 3 guys into play. He's not looking to get on the shoulder of your centre backs, if that makes sense. Yeah. So how we're going to play is try and get the ball to those 3 guys behind who really cause the damage. And if Ollie's going to be scoring, it's generally going to be with his head. Although he has actually got a couple goals mixed up now with his feet. So I think you're going to have to look out for runners basically coming off Ollie Hawkins, because we'll look for those through balls left, right, and Gareth Evans coming in the box late behind. So that's how we're going to play. Your centre backs are going to have to be aware of people in behind them, and they're going to have to try and stop the service out wide to Jamal Lowe and Ronan Curtis in particular.
And on the flip side, is there anyone that you worry about with Sunderland, and why?
Yeah, I'm a massive fan of Gooch. I think he's a great player. I watched him against Walsall, and I thought he creates a lot, doesn't he? He drifts, and I like that. He goes missing, and defenders seem to find it hard to pick him up. He knows when to pick a pass, doesn't he, as well as when to shoot.
He's had a great season. He's really played well. Yeah, I think he often gets missed out, does Lyndon Gooch, when I ask that question to opposition fans. And I think the amount of goals he's scored and the amount of assists he's got already this season, it's his first real season of playing every single week. He's been in and around the squad for the past few years, but he hasn't really played every single week like he has. And Gooch has been very good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's the guy I picked up. Do you know what, man? I've completely forgotten. What's the name of your striker up front?
Oh, Josh Maja. Yeah.
Now I've got a bit of a quip on about this with Maja. I've seen a little bit of some Sunderland fans giving him a bit of criticism for his all-round play, whether he's an all-round striker or not. Obviously, he's got 12 goals, and he's a very young guy as well, isn't he? So
still a teenager, yeah.
Do you feel that any of that criticism is fair?
It's a running joke with me with Josh Maja. I said I understand the concerns. He's not very strong on the ball. He's quite easily pushed off, and that can sometimes be quite frustrating. But his composure in front of goal, the one thing that he doesn't need to be taught is how to stick the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, he can seem to score any direction he's facing, apparently.
So, I mean, you can teach him strength, you can build him up, you can feed him a pie, as far as I'm concerned. That will come. But the funny thing, I do understand the frustration, because now and again there's been times when I've been at the match and I've gone, oh, bloody hell, hold it up better, And I think there was one point this season where I was like, oh, Matt has been shite today, and he went and scored 2 within 10 minutes. So it's a running joke with me in the stadium. If we're not winning, the lad next to me goes, tell Josh Madger he's shite again, and I do, and he tends to score. So it's we haven't really had anyone like that, although it's a very different level since, Darren Bent, Jermaine Defoe maybe.
Ex-Pompey as well, obviously.
Oh, I love Jermaine Defoe. A man I could talk about for a long, long time. Absolutely love Jermaine Defoe. I remember when he, it might have been the last time we played each other, or one of the last times, when he scored a penalty in the last minute at the Stadium of Light. Do you remember that?
I don't off the top of my head, I'm afraid, but maybe I've wiped it from my memory.
We got beat 2-1, I think. It was when he had like Crouch and Jermaine Defoe. When was the last time we played, actually? When was our last game? When did you go down?
Last game, 2010, was it?
So it would have been 1-1 Fratton Park, and I think you scored in the 96th minute, and the name of the striker completely evades me. Evades me.
I should have done some more research, I was going to tell you, but
should I.
Yeah.
Jeez.
No, unfortunately, I can't remember off the top of my head, but no, I was going to say, so obviously you've got Madger up front. I think it's quite interesting just to understand for your listeners how Pompey play and the difference, because Pompey, if you look at the stats, we actually create the most chances XG along with Barnsley and Luton in the league by a long way, but we're not scoring as many goals. In fact, I think you guys have scored a few more goals than us this season, whilst creating a lot less high danger scoring chances.
Yeah, it's very true.
And a lot of that comes from the fact that our strikers, and Brett Pitman's not playing well after scoring 25 goals last season for us. So you've got Ollie Hawkins up front, but he's not a natural finisher. So all these chances are being created, and he's got all the other attributes. He heads, he holds the ball up, he plays well, his link-up play is great. So if you just mould our two strikers together, you've got a complete forward there, haven't you?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Give someone a bit of strength and the striking power. Yeah, we'll be all right. But, I mean, it feels like in this league, it's funny you said that about, obviously, your main strikers not scoring that much, but you mentioned like the three lads behind have got about 6 or 7 each. But one thing I've kind of noticed in this division, and I don't know if it's an accurate thing to say because I've only been in League One once in my lifetime. I'm learning as the weeks go by, but it seems like if you have a centre forward that can stick the ball in the back of the net, you're safe, aren't you?
You are, I suppose. And I think Pompey fans sort of do want to get another striker, but Brett Pitman last year pretty much scored the majority of all our goals. And
so what's changing him this year?
He's not played. He's not made the team much. He's on the bench.
Is there a reason for that? Is it just the system, or?
I think the system. I think he doesn't. I think before we brought in, say, Ronan Curtis and Jamal Lowe either side of him. He was used to players getting him the ball to score in the box. If that makes sense. But now he's has to play in a way that he's got to link up with those guys behind and set them up a bit as well. And he's not natural to it, and he lacks a bit of pace, and he's holding up the ball isn't as good as, say, Ollie Hawkins up front. So he's having to try and find a new way of playing within the system to be effective, and it hasn't quite worked out for him yet this season. I just remembered, by the way, before I forget, it was our last game. The striker who scored, Aruna Dindan.
Funny you said that. There's a fantastic website if Sunderland fans don't know about it, called thestatcat.co.uk, and you can find anything, sort of any game from our entire history, and most of the games have the entire lineup. And I thought I'll see if I can find it just while we're chatting. I'm just looking through the teams, and Portsmouth's team is in the nicest possible way, full of absolute banter.
It's a shocking team.
David James in goal, Tal Ben Haim and Mark Wilson at centre half. Our friend Mark Wilson, good God. The substitute bench is brilliant. You've got Carnu, Danny Webber, Hayden Mullen, Jamie Ashdown, Nadir Belhaj, Richard Hughes, Quincy Owusu-Adebi, and then your defence, Ricardo Rocha, who got sent off in the 9th minute. We had 2 players sent off that night, Lee Cattermole and David Myler. That was right. That's why it was at the 96th minute. Whereas our team, Sana, Malbronk, Cattermole, Jones, Bent, Reed, how things change.
Any team with Ben Haim and playing defence for us just shows, how bad we were at that time and how strapped for cash we were. So, we might as well just go out to the pub and recruited a couple of people to play at the back, to be honest, because we were shocking that season. Absolutely shocking.
Tal Ben Haim, we had him as well, and he was a bizarre signing. And then you look through his career, and he played for City, like the new look City, and he played for Mourinho's Chelsea. Like, what the fuck happened there? Like,
he's basically got a really good agent, isn't he? Like,
he's got the great
agent. Yeah, same agent Rob Green's got. He's got him that move to Chelsea.
Like, how do you manage that? Like, I mean, you've got like Mark Wilson there as well. Now he's recent for us, but I remember that season you were so strapped for cash. Steve Bruce wanted to sign Mark Wilson, I think, for $4 million after the transfer deadline window to help you out. Do you remember that at all?
I don't remember it, but to be honest, there's so much transfer speculation around the club all the time. Yeah. It was a fire sale, but also it was so crooked. Like, you know, we had Redknapp before, who was, you know, absolutely rinsing the team. So, you know, you had Nico Cranchar, we had a £13 million bid from Monaco.
Yeah,
he turned that bid down, and then he accepted a bid from Tottenham later on for less than $2 million, and siphoned some of the money off into his bank account. So the only reason he got away with that, the only reason he got away with that in court was he said he couldn't read, which is absolutely ridiculous. And that's his defence.
Could be true.
Right, I've seen him on the bench personally, mate, reading. So I think that's a load of rubbish. Premier League manager, he can't read.
Well, can he spell Cranchar? That's a good question. I don't know if is it what Krancjar? Could I be right?
Yeah, you're right.
He brought him everywhere, though, didn't he? He brought Cranchar everywhere. He still does.
Yeah, yeah. I reckon he's got some sort of deal going on with him as well. Another good one was Begovic, Asmir Begovic.
Oh, good God, yeah.
He sold into Stoke, right? Yeah, okay. But somehow during this transfer, we gave ownership of him to Tottenham for no reason. They passed him on. We owed Tottenham $2 million from it. They didn't. Absolutely ridiculous. Obviously, siphoning more money off, but how you can sell a player to Stoke and then actually owe Tottenham £2 million?
It certainly feels like the kind of last year was our banter year, I suppose. It felt like that was your banter year as well, and you've got to look back and laugh at it, though, don't you?
Oh, you do now, and I think the fans now, that's a completely different time now. And I think also we didn't build the club in a sustainable way like we have now. You know, we built the youth academy. We've got some good young players coming into the team. You can see that with the likes of Watmore playing at centre back, and Adam Webster, who's gone on now to play at Bristol City and played at Ipswich, and obviously, you know, Matt Clark's come as a young player. He's not from the academy, but a young player through and developed well with us. So you got to think that we're doing it the right way now. You know, debt free, proper academy team, and it's looking a lot better than it was even really in the Premier League.
It's funny you should say that, because the thing is, I remember when we had all these like narrow escapes in the Premier League, and you'd have someone who would say maybe we need to go down and rebuild, and obviously we went down again. But I think the way that things have happened in our new ownership, and the way the club feels at the moment, and the way it's been built, and the way it's been managed correctly right from the top, there is something to be said about like eventually hitting that rock bottom, isn't it? And like rebuilding is actually better for the club. It's not a myth, is it? It doesn't feel like it is to me.
No, I mean, we sort of burn it all down, didn't we? Apart from anything that stands is the stadium, really.
Yeah,
and that's shocking that it still managed to stay up. But no, we've made some good improvements to that. But you have to tear it all down, really, in some ways. And once it's all being torn down like it was, then especially, I mean, I don't know much about your ownership really, who've bought into the club. But I think with us, because it was a fan ownership, we did it the right way, really.
I think obviously we have Stuart Donald and Charlie Methven who've bought the club, and Juan Satori on the board as well. But I think the best thing about them is that it may not be fan owned. It's not like that. They came from Eastleigh, funnily enough, but they definitely get the community element of it. I mean, I can only speak from my own perspective and say that it's been brilliant how amazing they've been with us. Like within weeks of them taking over, we had someone from Sunderland, Oscar from the who writes the program, does the social media, contacted us to ask if we could put the player interviews into the program, because he wanted it to be more, the club wanted it to be more fan based.
That's interesting, yeah.
And you've got sort of Wise Men Say Go on that as well, which is another obviously great podcast. You've got Salute Sunderland is in there as well, which always does some really great pieces. And it's really good. I'm super proud when I read the program and I see that, and it feels like my own club again. So in a sense, although it's not fan owned, they definitely have put it back into the fans. And I think there's so much to be said for like making a football club like a community. I think I would bang that drum forevermore, especially a club like Sunderland, and especially a club like Portsmouth, obviously opposite ends of the country, but very much working class people.
Yeah, definitely. And we're one of those teams that, we're obviously similar enough that we're a one city football team, and everyone in Portsmouth is pretty much a Portsmouth fan. You don't walk around and see people strolling around in Man United jerseys or whatever, the whole city.
Thank God, eh?
Yeah, it'd be jarring to hear that. But I remember we played Man United, funnily enough, in the Community Shield back in the day, and all the Portsmouth fans are chanting "Wave goodbye at Guildford" to them all. But yeah, no, it's great, and I think that being involved in Pompey and the community, I know we've won Community Club of the Year a couple of years running and stuff, and I think that you guys deserve to have that input. You're a passionate team, and the fans need to understand what's going on as well, don't you? You know what I mean? You need involvement so that it's not going to happen again with what's going on.
No, 100%. And I think, like I was saying before, the last guest we had on the Xtra pod, the last guest that I had on was Andy Holt, who was the chairman of Accrington Stanley. And I think it was absolutely mad for me that I could just ring the chairman of Accrington Stanley and have a conversation with him about the match on Saturday. And I think at the same time, halfway through, I kind of forgot that he was the chairman. My mind went totally over my head. And the same thing has happened with Connor, who's done our podcast this season with our chairman since he's come in, including the first day he came in. After a while, you realise you are just speaking to someone who wants to do the club well. And I think there's so much more about that to be said than an owner who just not so much doesn't care, but doesn't communicate. Like, I'm not saying go on Twitter and be, as open as you possibly can be. Keep some stuff to yourself, that's fine, but let the fans know where the club's going, and the fans will tend to go with you. Or if you make that mistake, at least they know what you were trying to do.
No, I agree, and I think we do a similar thing with our CEO, Mark Catalan does a fan sort of Q&A. People send him in stuff, and he reads all the questions out on video and explains his decisions and choices and updates the fans on what's going on. So everyone's got that involvement in the team and got that transparency as well. I think that's a really useful thing, because any of those questions that can eat away at fans, that they're answered and asked, out in the public, in the open. And I think little things like that can make a big difference, don't they?
A huge difference, yeah. I mean, there's one of our shareholders, Juan Sartori, he wants to go and be the president of Uruguay, and obviously everyone's like, "Oh, does that mean he's not going to invest anymore?" And within hours, he was straight on the Twitter, our chairman, and was like, "Nope, he's still fully committed. It's absolutely fine." And all of a sudden, that worry's gone.
You can be in charge of Uruguay and Sunderland, apparently. Then I like that.
I think it's fabulous. I think it's a great idea. Imagine that, being in charge of both. I know which one I choose, mind.
Yeah, you might, I don't know. You might be able to get a couple of their players over. You might have a cheeky chat with a few players.
I believe
Suarez
that's the idea.
Maybe
anyone but Sebastian Quartes, and I think we're all right. No offense, Sebastian, mate.
Yeah,
so moving forward to predictions, we've got to go with the predictions, and I think I'm not nervous about Saturday, because I'm not nervous about the football anymore. I'm actually enjoying it, but I think obviously I'm expecting a challenge on Saturday. I'm hoping it's a challenge we can overcome, because I think if we win this one with our 2 games in hand, I would like to think we could overtake you in the next few weeks, but lose it, and it's not great. But there's got to be a point at some point when we do lose again. But how do you see Saturday going?
It's a bit of a coin flip, isn't it? I think, but 2 very good sides going head to head. I expect it to be noisy at the ground. I expect you guys to make a lot of noise as well. Do you know how many fans you're bringing?
We've sold out, as far as I'm aware. Yeah. We're closer thereabouts. I'm imagining about 2,000, 2,500.
Yeah, 2,500. I think.
But I'm not certain. But I would imagine so.
Yeah, so I imagine it'd be quite a good atmosphere at the ground.
Definitely.
It's at Fratton Park, but I'm going to go with 2-1 Pompey. I mean, it's a coin flip. I'm going to bet on the lads. I think that. Do you want me to go for goal scorers, or do you want me to?
Yeah, go on. Why not?
Okay, yeah. So I'm going to go 2-1 Portsmouth. I think that in these sort of big occasions, I think we're going to get Ronan Curtis is going to score the first goal for us. And I think the second goal will come late. So I think you'll grab an equaliser. I'm going to pick Gooch up to get the goal. I think he's a smart player and the kind of player he could get a goal against us. I think, I was going to say, yeah. So I think we're going to go with Jamal Lowe to get the winner. He scores big goals at home. And I think that's we'll go with the 2 attacking midfielders to get the result for us.
Before I give you my prediction, would you take the draw if it was offered to you today?
my feeling is I want to win. A draw's okay,
Mm-hmm.
and a loss is terrible really for us. So yeah, will I take the draw? No, I want to win. But if we get a draw, that's okay. It's not a bad result at all. But we can see you coming up behind us, and you've got a couple of games in hand. It'd be especially after not beating Barnsley and losing to Charlton. I think we want to win really.
I'm gonna go 2 each.
2-2.
I think it'll be a good game. I'm not overly confident that we'll win. I don't know why, but I'll take 2-2. I'll take McGeady to get both because he's on fire at the minute. But I'm hoping for a win. But I'll take the draw.
Fabulous. Well, do you know what? If it was at your place, I'd definitely take a draw as well. So
yeah,
I just want to beat you at Fratton Park.
If we get a draw, we've got the 2 games in hand. Then we can overtake you if we win them too when we play them. But I don't know. But like I say, I'll take the draw, and I expect the draw, I think. But mate, thanks for coming on. I hope you have a horrible Saturday. I always give you that. I always have to do that.
I wish you the same other way around.
Honestly, it's the best, But good luck for the rest of the season. And I think, and I don't want to sound cheesy or arse-kissy or anything like that, but I think when it comes to Portsmouth and Sunderland and teams like probably Wolves as well, because we know what we've been through, I think each club like to see each other do well. I've got no gripes with Portsmouth being top, apart from the fact that it's not us. If you were second, no problem with that. I think when you're a fan of a football club and you see basically the heart ripped out of it, as you probably have seen with us and we've seen with you, and as I said, Wolves before, I think Leicester went through it a few years ago. There's kind of an affinity there, isn't there? So I do genuinely wish you luck for the rest of the season, as long as it doesn't fuck our success up.
Yeah, I think we feel the same. I think I was going to, just before you go, actually, I was going to ask you a question. One of our listeners on our podcast, the PO4Cast, the podcast with Pompey News now, he actually asked me to say, will you be wearing that horrendous red and white striped shirt? Or will you be wearing your away kit?
It would be the red and white, I would imagine, but it'll not be it would be, it should be.
Because you're going to get a lot of abuse wearing that shirt kit down in...
Because of the Southampton?
Yeah. Just thought I'd give you a heads up on that. It's not going to be that well with the home fans and you come out wearing that shirt. So, yeah, all right, I'll let the guys know on our podcast, which I'm about to record. All right.
Spot on, my man. Thanks so much for coming on, and good luck for the season after Saturday, all right?
And you guys. Cheers. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Cheers, Hugh. Bye.
Bye.
So that is the end of the Portsmouth Xtra pod. Bit difficult doing it on the phone. Not going to lie, I definitely need to get my laptop fixed when Santa Clauses came and gone. I don't think I'll speak to you before Christmas. So Merry Christmas from me. I hope it's a really, really good one. Hope it's a one that's celebrated with 3 points, or even a point. Like I say, I'll take the draw on Saturday. I'm not too fussed about that. But do have a great Christmas. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast today that I'm recording today. It's Wednesday. It was the day that the Phil Bardsley podcast went out, and it's been really, really nice to see people really enjoying that. I really enjoyed doing it too. I always enjoy doing this. I get to speak about the match, and I'm a huge Sunderland fan. It's brilliant. It's the same for all the lads at Roker Rapport and across, multiple different channels that Sunderland fans are offering right now. So have a great Christmas. It's really, really nice to be ending 2018 in such a positive space for Sunderland as a football club. I hope you, your family, and your loved ones are really well, and I hope you have a really cracking new year if I don't speak to you beforehand. Thanks for checking in again as always. My name's Graham. It's been a Roker Rapport Extra podcast.